Good morning, I'm Chris Fox, and today we're going to talk about writing great antagonists. Now, this is probably my favorite video in the series because I believe that an antagonist is as important as your protagonist, and in some cases, maybe more so. So we're going to take a look at how you can make a memorable antagonist. There's only 3 rules to do this, and hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have a way to create much better antagonists than you are currently. So without further ado, let's jump into the meat of the video. Okay, so there are 3 rules to writing a great antagonist. Now, only 2 of these are necessary, but I think the third one really makes for a more layered antagonist. So, number 1, you need to make sure that it's very clear to your reader how powerful that your villain is. So your antagonist, you need to demonstrate their power. That's rule number 1. So what are a couple of good examples that we've seen this done with? So I guess I'll pick a couple that you guys definitely know. Odds are good that you have either read or seen the movie Jaws. So the antagonist of the movie Jaws is a shark, right? Now, how is the shark's power demonstrated? Right off the bat, we see a swimmer head out into the water and get eaten by a shark. If you get in the water, the shark is going to eat you. We see this demonstration of power, and we know right from the get-go, our protagonist is going to have to go out on that water. And they're going to have to face this shark who is going to eat them, or potentially eat them. So we see how in Jaws that shark's power is presented. The same thing is true of one of my most common examples, Star Wars. So think about the very first Star Wars movie, Episode 4, when Darth Vader first strides onto that screen. You've seen his stormtroopers whoop down the rebels and take over this vessel. It's the only time that stormtroopers will actually ever hit anything in the entire series. But he strides down this corridor, and we see how powerful he is as he's barking off orders, taking over this ship. Later on in that same movie, we see him force choke somebody. And then we see him kill Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we know that Darth Vader is powerful, and over, we demonstrate that power. That's what we're seeing happening. And that's what makes for a good villain, because we need to know that our villain is going to be a challenge that the protagonist probably can't beat. We want it to look like they're the underdog and there's no way they can win. And so demonstrating the power of your antagonist is one way to do that. What's the second rule? The second rule of writing a great antagonist is showing their motivation. You've got to demonstrate motivation. Why is the villain doing what they're doing? Getting back to our Jaws example, the shark's hungry. Sharks eat, right? It's a very simple motivation, but it makes sense to the reader and we understand it immediately. That shark is out there devouring all of the food that it can get its little teeth on. It makes sense. For Darth Vader, we know that he wants to restore order to the galaxy, right? He wants to crush this rebellion. We don't necessarily agree with everything he's doing. We see him torture Princess Leia, with this droid. We see him do all sorts of horrible things, but they're all in pursuit of a goal that we understand. We may not like Darth Vader, but we get why he's attempting to do what he's doing. His motivation is clear to us. And if you can make the motivation of your antagonist clear to your reader, they're going to be that much more invested in the story. It kind of raises the stakes, and it's definitely a good idea to do. The third rule of your antagonist, of making a great antagonist, and this one's not strictly necessary, so you'll see that in the Jaws example it doesn't apply, but it does with Darth Vader, and that's character arc. Create a character arc for your antagonist exactly the same way that you would do it for your protagonist, so that your antagonist is somebody different at the end of the series. Now clearly with Jaws, the shark is just the shark. You're not going to see any difference. It's not going to have a character arc. If the villain is tornadoes in your story, a tornado tearing apart a farmhouse and it's about them surviving, the tornado's not really going to have a character arc. But if you're writing about somebody like Darth Vader absolutely has a character arc. So if you think in the first movie that we see him, A New Hope, Darth Vader is just this cold, emotionless machine going around killing people and doing some pretty terrible things. But in the second movie, we start seeing the capacity for change. We learn that Darth Vader is Luke's father, right? And he wants to be a good father. He wants to restore order in the galaxy, and he wants Luke's help to do it. So we see he's no longer just a cold, emotionless machine. He's capable of feeling. And he loves his child. Even if he's a horrible person, he loves his child. And if you jump to Return of the Jedi, look at how his arc completes. It comes full circle. He actually takes the Emperor and he hucks him down this chute into the center of the Death Star and kills the Emperor. He redeems himself in the end and demonstrates his love for his child. So you get to see Darth Vader go from this cold, emotionless killing machine to a father who will sacrifice his own life in order to save his child. And in this way, he becomes one of the most memorable villains of all time because we got to watch him grow. And if every character in your series, if your protagonist, if your side characters, and if even your antagonist are growing, people are going to love your stories. So there you have it, guys. 3 simple ways for you to improve the antagonist that you're writing. I know this is basic for some of you, but hey, you know what? For me, this would have been great information once upon a time not too far back. So if you found it useful, please subscribe to the channel and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, until next week.